Sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
No, we just kept fighting. I mean, we didn't play particularly well at times today, but we kept fighting. We upped our intensity, made things way more uncomfortable for them. Got out and, got some easy stuff. Got to the rim a little bit more. We didn't really finish very well today, but that hurt us. So.
Did you get any kind of explanation from the refs?
No.
On that call?
He makes the call from 50 feet away. I mean, I don't know. So.
I love the guy. I love that guy.
Oh man, that's hilarious. So he was he was asked, did you for those of you that didn't hear the question in the background there, did you get any explanation on that call there? Nah. I mean, he made the call from 50 feet away. Nah. Oh man. I'm also you told me that I'm just reading some of the game stories. I was not happy. I went to bed after the game was over. And it was kind of disappointing. I'm not going to read stories about that.
I love you're on the roller coaster so hard now.
Well, I have a couple takes on this game, believe it or not. This is Mackey and Judd. You guys were at this is tough right now because we've got like 4 relevant, interesting teams all operating at the same time right now. So, you guys are on the Judd's Hockey Show Wild duty. I am just chugging Timberwolves Kool-Aid, but the Twins popped up and freaking signed Carlos Correa, which became official today. The Vikings popped up and brought Sean Mannion back to fortify that quarterback room. A lot of things going on right now. We're going to get to who gets it, who doesn't shortly. But combing through the game stories and then hearing that clip from Chris Finch, I'm kind of shocked to see how much the Wolves are putting that game on the refs last night. Karl Anthony Towns, I can't say it or I'll get fined when asked about some of the late game sequences there. Chris Finch said, it was kind of wild, really, looking at the tape. I thought Pat Bev, got fouled on the shot, which was a three-pointer. Should have been 3 on the right wing. He was clearly in the gather and turned and thought that should have been for sure a 3-point shot. I guess I watched that game and thought, not that the officials screwed the Timberwolves. I do think that there were some, if that game was being played inside Target Center, maybe there's a call or two that's different or something. But I looked at that game and thought, wow, that is a playoff game. These two teams are fighting to avoid the play-in. It's a raucous atmosphere, and the intensity level in the first half was a little bit more than the Wolves have been used to lately. And by lately, I mean in 17 years for the most part. There was a run like 4 years ago. But it's like they walked into that arena, and the Mavericks have been a playoff team, and the Mavericks won a championship 10 years ago, and like the crowd kind of senses this time of year, the players and Doncic, like they know that this is big boy basketball. And the Wolves kind of know that it's big boy basketball, but this was the first real, okay, you're on the road against a team that's trying to claw your eyes out, and they're playing physical. And it took them like an hour of real time to get used to the feel of it. And then once they did, boom, they go on a run in the second half, and then it was back and forth. I don't think they got screwed. I think they just lost a hard-nosed, tough 50-50 game, and it's probably going to be good for them in the long run. Oh, that's my take on it.
And I think what you said is the most important thing. They are going to find themselves where the majority of guys, not Pat Bev, but a lot of guys, key guys on this team have never been before in their current roles, right? Like 4 years back, it was Butler and Towns is trying, but he's not really embraced and he's not really part of the process as much. So as tough as this might be to hear, I think that this is going to be, and it's why the playoffs to me become so important. Not because the Wolves win around, Phil, but because of how guys like Towns and D'Lo and Ant handle it, right? Like that becomes now the jumping off point for invaluable experience. And I think being screwed in some ways or thinking that you were at least by the refs is a good thing. That has to be totally tuned out. Like that can't matter. Like you can't be, well, we lost a tough playoff game, refs. It might be true. It doesn't matter. You lost. So like how do you compartmentalize that and move on from that and say, okay, we think we got screwed, but we're not going to pout. We're not going to complain. We're not going to create a scene. What we're going to do is bear down and try and win the damn basketball game.
Yeah, and that all of it last night, from some of the controversial 50-50 calls because it's physical, to giving up whatever 10 unanswered points and falling behind by 60. Like this is sort of your future the next few weeks and into the playoffs. There's not going to be a let up here. You got the Suns at home, you got the Mavericks again, you got the Celtics, who are one of the hottest teams in the NBA, you got the Nuggets again, and so this is what life is going to be like for the Timberwolves and for fans. And I think, again, it's been so long outside of that one uncomfortable, teeth-pulling Tom Thibodeau, Jimmy Butler season. It's been so long since we've been immersed in this type of high-intensity, dramatic, hold-your-breath basketball. All of us, from fans to players to the people that are in and around the Timberwolves support staff, we're just going to have to get used to this. That last night is what most of the games are going to feel like going forward the rest of this year. The NBA is like it's like a video game. Like when I was a kid, I used to play those Mario games where you would like Mario World on Super Nintendo or
Mario Party?
I never played Mario Party.
Mario Kart?
Mario Kart for sure.
Mario Baseball, Mario Golf. There's a lot of Mario games I could.
Mario Golf.
I missed them all
a couple times. Or like you play Madden and there's like 4 different levels of hardness, right? And as you go through the levels, it gets harder, and at first you get sort of slapped in the face by it. That's what the Timberwolves are going through right now. They graduated to another level last night, stepping into that arena against the Mavericks. It was a little fast-paced and a little intense for them early, but they settled. My takeaways from last night are mostly positive, despite it being a loss. You kind of need you don't just get to oh, here we are, now we're in the Western Conference Finals, this is great. No, you're going to have to take lumps this year, probably next year, and we'll see how high the ceiling is ultimately. But last night was step one in what might be a difficult learning process for them here the next few weeks.
What's your confidence that Towns can take that step? Because, his talent is unquestioned. But in the playoffs, when things get rough, he is going to get fouled. And it's not going to be called. And he's going to... What's your confidence right now that he can take that step towards at least accepting it, not allowing it to impact his game?
Pretty high if last night is an indicator. Last night, calls aren't necessarily going your way. Dallas made it really hard on the Timberwolves, specifically in the first half. They were doubling him at the touch on the perimeter and in the low block every time he got the ball. It wasn't like he gets the ball and then maybe someone kind of gravitates. It was as soon as the ball is being thrown to him, they were instantly double teaming him, which can be really frustrating. At times he is just sort of, he'll turn the ball over or he'll. But last night it was he knew that his duty, once they figured out, oh, this is what's going to happen here, halfway through the first quarter, and all of a sudden now he's throwing cross-court skip passes to the corner for 3, and they weren't making all those shots. But he kept his composure, getting doubled on a regular basis, and then toward the end, he posterized Doncic with a minute and a half to go, just a go-go gadget, Giannis-like dunk from halfway through the paint. I think it was to bring the Wolves back within 1. So do I think he's probably going to let emotions get the best of him in some of these intense games? Yes, because I don't think he can just suppress all of it. But he has done a really good job. I think Pat Bev has been a help to him. I think Anthony Edwards just kind of being a fun, just a keep it light personality has been good for him. So I'm not going to say that he's never going to let an atmosphere like that or bad calls affect him in these games going forward, but I think he's in a much better place now than he was 6 months ago or 2 years ago. Yeah.
I don't want him in a place again in the playoffs where he gets absolutely clowned by Barkley, Kenny Smith, right? That was the one thing. It wasn't that they lost in that series. It was how his game sort of shrunk, I thought. But that's the next step towards asserting yourself.
But here's what I would say in response to that. His game shrunk, and some of it was on him. You're talking 4 years ago against the Rockets in the playoffs.
Right.
But also his coach and the best player on the team, Jimmy Butler, were not looking to run things through him, right? It was it ultimately turned into Jimmy Butler hero ball and Cat just stay out of the way. Like Cat was just standing in the corner at times, and they would show the clips on Inside the NBA. Why is Cat just standing there doing nothing? This coach and these teammates are looking to run the entire thing through Karl Anthony Towns. They're looking to get him 3-pointers. They're looking to get him the ball in the low block. So I think the entire system, from the teammates to the actual system that they run to the coaches, all of it is propping up Karl Anthony Towns. So I don't think you're going to have a playoff series in 3 or 4 weeks from now where it's like, what happened to Towns? He was just standing there doing nothing. Because I think everything is meant to empower him. And that's the biggest difference.
I guess I'm more concerned, or to articulate it in a better way, I guess what I'm thinking about is his personal approach. So like he is a different player, and Chris Finch gets it completely. I'm talking about if he gets pushed around. I'm talking about his, but I think he's grown.
Dude,
to me is the next step.
There was a moment in that game last night, and it was the dunk that I'm talking about. It's like they're going back and forth. It's close. I can't remember what the exact score was, but like he posterized Doncic in a big spot with like a minute to go. He drove it from the top of the key into the lane. He Euro stepped and just threw it down. And then as he's running back the other way, he wasn't running back, sort of like, he was literally like scowling and thumping his chest like, I am the best player on the court right now, and I just posterized one of the best players in the NBA. Nice. And like the look on his face in these moments is there's just a different level of confidence. And again, I'm not saying that he's not going to lose his cool and have a bad game at some point. Like those things are all on the table. The other thing too, because the only reference point we have right now is like 20 years ago Timberwolves teams, right? There's a lot of people that are getting excited about this year's team that weren't even alive or don't remember anything about the Kevin Garnett 8 years of playoff runs. And so, fortunately, like I grew up in that time period, like 90s and early 2000s Timberwolves. And thinking back on those KG teams, once Marbury got traded, it took like 5 or 6 years for them to put actual cast members around Kevin Garnett that were like number 2 and number 3 scorers. It was basically for 5 years, it was like Terrell Brandon, a little bit of Wally Zerbiak, Anthony Peeler was like the third leading scorer on one of those teams. And then finally they got Latrell Sprewell and Sam Cassell, as KG was like in his late 20s. And so it just took them forever to make a run. It's like, they got to the playoffs, and that took them 7 years of getting bounced in the first round. And then finally they get the teammates around him. This Wolves team is deeper than any of those. I think this Wolves team is deeper than any of those Kevin Garnett teams. I mean, the fact that they're without Jaden McDaniels, a starter, they've been without. I mean, how often have they really been at full strength in the last 2 or 3 months? Like they've always had someone out, like Anthony Edwards for a few games, or Pat Bev, or Jared Vanderbilt is out. Now, I think KG is unquestionably, if you ranked all the players from all these teams, like KG is one of the greatest players of all time. And the Wolves don't have. Cat is great, but Cat's not on that level, right? But if you start to rank all the other players, role players and otherwise, on those KG teams from 20 years ago and this Timberwolves team, Timberwolves team has, they Anthony Edwards and the talent that he brings, a Pat Beverley type that can play defense, shut down, that can bring that emotional sort of centerpiece to the team. So I don't think that the learning curve and that the getting bounced from the playoffs learning is going to take a half a decade like it did. I legitimately think this team has a chance to win a playoff series in a month from now. And if they don't, the lessons that they learn in some of these games is going to be so applicable to next season.
Yeah.
And some of these other teams like the Warriors are only going to get older, that they're in a really, really good spot right now.
Well, and if they don't win it, that still is reason for being optimistic, because this team has and looks like it has a ton. And the Pat Bev thing I love is Pat Bev can probably be here for 2 years. He can teach a lot, and then he leaves. But what he taught is going to be ingrained. Like this is as functional of Wolves team, just functional, as you've had in a long, long time. Because Cassell and Sprewell, that was fun. It wasn't functional. Like those were really odd people, and Beverley is too. But I think what he's going to leave as far as what he can teach Cat, and probably just as importantly, Ant. Like, I think Ant is a sponge. He strikes me as a really bright guy, and I think he's a sponge type. And I think that he is, like the whole swag thing. Yes, he said swag a lot, but his point was a really good one. Like, we're all getting it now, and we're growing together. And so I think what Finch, and it starts with Chris, but I think what you start with there is the ability to have a team that starts to not just gel, Phil, but also gets it.
Yeah. Speaking of Anthony Edwards, late in that game, they had Anthony Edwards at times on Luka Doncic, and he was clamping Luka. Now, Luka's such a weird player, man, because he's not super quick.
I'd like to talk
he just
about
kind
him.
of, like, moves around the court. He looks like he's 15 pounds overweight all the time.
But
like,
he has lost
player.
substantial weight in season.
Yeah, I mean, he's got
Luka
about 20 to go, and maybe you can help him.
As a retired player, that guy is going to weigh, I'm putting my bets on it right now, about 310.
Oh, he'll be Barkley. Yeah.
He's going to be about 310. Like, I mean, that guy has as bad a body as you can have.
Yeah. No, there was a possession at one point, and the Wolves got unlucky with this, but it was Ant Edwards one-on-one with Luka, and Luka couldn't get by him, and Edwards wound up poking the ball away, and the Wolves looked like they were about to go on a 3-on-2 fast break the other direction, but the ball kind of got like ping-ponged around right into the hands of a wide-open Dallas Mavericks player who throws down a dunk. But, I mean, Ant has become one of the most engaged defenders on this team, and I think you're right, Judd. I think Patrick Beverley makes defense cool for young players, right? Like, he shows you, and he's in there trash talking the whole game. Like, I love the fact that this team thinks that they're the best team in the NBA right now. It's completely unwarranted confidence right now because it is the Timberwolves, but they need it. Like, that's how you break out of a 20-year franchise.
I got no
slump.
problem with that.
It's great.
Yes, I have zero problem
They
with that.
legitimately think they're the best team in the NBA right now, I feel like, every time they take the court.
But they don't do it in an a-hole way. Like, it's likable.
I mean, Pat Bev does a little bit, but it's likable when
Yeah, he does. He does, but it's fun. But I'm saying it's fun. Jimmy Butler was an interesting player to watch, right? But he was a jerk. And there was no question. And the problem with him is he was a jerk if he played for your team or the opponent. With Pat Bev, I'm sure that he's a guy that teams and fans hate to play against. But he has done a job here where I watch him at games on the bench. It's great what he does, like what the intensity that he brings. And with Butler, it was all, in my opinion, introverted into Jimmy. Like, Jimmy was about himself. And so, like, if he was trying to lead, it was, I am Jimmy, I am going to lead. With Pat Bev, it's an outward confidence. It's a hubris, but it works. It works. And the weird thing, and this is a very strange thing that I don't know why, but it worked, and it really, I think, symbolizes the difference in this Wolves team, and it's a positive. When D'Lo took a shot at the fans, that could have gone one of two ways. The fans could have said, bleep you, you've stunk for 17 years, what are you talking about, D'Lo, shut up. Or, you know what, hell no, let's stand up, that's cool, let's do it. They chose the latter. It worked. And like, he wasn't, in my opinion, through the fan base, vilified. There was no like negative. Fans now stand up until the Wolves score, which is a small thing. But the point is, there's something about this team that's likable and that works. And I don't even know exactly why, but it's fun.
And it feels sustainable, kind of going back to the KG era, right? Like, it turned out that the Marbury thing, because of Marbury's ego and just everything that happened there, that wasn't sustainable. And then by the time they finally put some actual teammates around Kevin Garnett, that wasn't sustainable either, because Cassell and Sprewell were in their mid-30s. It was just kind of a one-year, and I still contend that if Sam Cassell doesn't get hurt in that playoff run, I think because they went 6 games with the Lakers with a hobbled Sam Cassell. I think they beat the Lakers in that series, and then I think they're favored against the Pistons. So they may have won the championship if Sam Cassell stayed healthy, but that wasn't sustainable beyond that 1 year. It was kind of like the Brett Favre 2009 Vikings, right? This is great, this is a blast, but the player that was acquired, or the players in the Wolves case, just aren't in their primes. This feels like, and again, injuries, contracts, there's a million different things that could put a wrench into this, but this feels like the opening of a 3 to 5 year window. And then the only question is, what is their peak potential? What do the other teams in the Western Conference look like in 2 or 3 years from now? And then how much can you bank what you're learning now to make you better for next year and beyond? So, by the way, these Timberwolves discussions, which it's pretty fun to be having relevant Timberwolves discussions in late March for the first time in a long time, are presented by our friends at Mayo Clinic in Minneapolis. You can be seen right now by Mayo Clinic experts in Minneapolis and also Rochester. Specialty clinics open now for men's health and urology, orthopedic, sports medicine, dermatology. It's a very convenient option for Twin Cities listeners and viewers of the Mackey and Judd Show to be seen close to home by Mayo Clinic experts in Minneapolis. Request an appointment at mayoclinic.org, mayoclinic.org. One more thought here before we get to who gets it, who doesn't, and some wild discussion. I don't think you have to roll off a bunch of wins here. I don't fear the play-in. The play-in is what it is. Like, you should be able to. You're going to play a couple home games. If you lose in the first one, like you should beat the Clippers in the first play-in game. So I don't fear the play-in, but I would like to see the Wolves get a win here against the Suns and/or the Mavericks, just to sort of show those teams that this isn't a joke. This isn't a team that's just feasted on bad opponents. Like, they're here to actually fight and give you, like, you don't want to face them in 3 weeks. I want them to show that over the next couple weeks here and get to a new level. And so, like, again, do you have to beat the Suns this week? No, but fight them and don't get beat by 20. And then if you do lose, come back and beat the Mavericks on Friday night. If you beat both these teams at home this week, then it's on. Like, then climbing up to the 5 seed is a legitimate possibility. So that's kind of what these aren't like must-win games, but I think they're very much, there's like 6 litmus tests, show who you are against some of the best teams in the league games here that you have to at least put on a good showing like you did last night.
I tweeted with Chad Hartman last night, a friend of the show, and he was talking about how, the interest has changed with the Wolves when more people are blaming the officials for the loss when they weren't the problem.
Yeah.
And that's something Judd and I were talking about the game yesterday. Like, the amount of Wild fans that just loathe Vegas and loathe that, it's not just the Vegas Golden Knights they're playing the Vegas Golden referees too. Like, for God's sakes, like, you're not playing 2 opponents out there. You're playing the opponent, and referees suck. Yeah, referees stink. No referee is perfect, but you don't lose games because of the refs, for God's sakes. And it's literally one of my least favorite crowds in all of sports, because it exists in basketball, football, baseball, hockey.
Yeah, I think, like, there's definitely a time where you blame the official. Like, there's things that happen that Ed Malloy 3 times a year alters a game in the NBA, or like idiot umpires just with their egos getting in the way. Last night's Timberwolves game was not decided by the referees. On the Pat Bev stuff, it was very 50-50, that play out on the right wing. I think more often than not, that is called a foul on the floor. And Chris Finch and Pat Bev are saying, no, he was going into a shooting motion. I mean, he was moving to his right as he was getting fouled, and then he went into a shooting motion. Would it have been nice for him to shoot 3 free throws? Absolutely. I actually was more upset with, after the free throw fiasco, where he, in the reviews and everything, where he goes out to the right corner, or I guess it would have been the left corner, and he hits the step-back three-pointer, but they called the foul on the floor with like 2 seconds to go, giving him 2 free throws instead of 3, or just letting the basket count. And when you watch that play back, it was kind of a phantom contact. Like, the referee was anticipating a foul because the defender was like trying to reach to foul him, but Pat Bev kind of stepped back on it and then knocked down a corner 3 to tie the game, but they called the foul on the floor. I was more offended by that because I didn't think there was enough contact for it to be a foul. But the refs sometimes anticipate, they're trying to foul, so, he's trying to foul, so I'm going to call it a foul. We didn't touch him. So, but again, was it the reason why they lost the game? No. They weren't knocking down their 3-point shots, and they weren't ready for the intensity in the first half.
It's a good lesson, at least.
It really is. Always be ready for the intensity in the first half.
Yes. Playoff intensity, baby. It's
in
great.
Life and in other areas. All right, boys.